Okay, I'm gonna call to order the joint meeting between North City Water District and North Shore Fire Department Board of Commissioners. Amy, if you wanted to do roll call for us?
Yes, good evening. Commissioner Adnan,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Present.
Commissioner Byers,
Present.
Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Woolham,
Here?
Commissioner Ron Ricker,
Here.
Commissioner Patricia Hale,
Here.
Commissioner Charlotte Haynes,
Here.
and
That's good.
Chief Palin,
Here.
Legal Counsel Aaron Haynes,
Here.
Deborah Pottinger, District Manager.
Diane Pottinger, yes.
Diane, thank you, sorry. And I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
Okay, so next we're going to move on to public comment. I don't know if you've gotten any in. No. Okay, so if the public would like to comment, if they can put their hand up on their name. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so introductions, if we want to go around and introduce who we are.
Yeah, Commissioner Josh Pratt, this is start of year 5 of my 6 years.
Wow.
And yeah, first time on the board. I'm also a City of Kirkland firefighter.
Commissioner Rick Webster, and I'm retired.
And how long have you been on the board?
I think it's about, same time, I think we got sworn in same time, so, yeah, 6 years.
So I'm Lisa Wallum and I've been on the board. This is year 3 for me.
And I'm Tyler Byers, and same deal, going into year 3 for me as well.
And Patty Gale with the North City Water District. I did 1 year filling out somebody else's term and into the 4th year of my first term elected. You don't want to ask this question. Yes, you did. It's amazing. It's a recent story.
I'm Ron Ricker. I'm in my 9th term or 54 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, you must be.
I'm damn good.
It's not what your wife said.
She can talk again.
Diane Pottinger, District Manager. I've been in my role just over 12 years last December.
And
Mhm.
Charlotte Haynes, and I've been on the board now for about 20 years.
Wow. Commissioner Adman?
Yeah, I'm Eric Admin, and I've been on the board 1 prior term, then had a gap, about 3 more years, and I just got elected for a subsequent term.
Okay,
Who's that guy?
Chief.
Matt Count, Fire Chief, 32 years in this fire service, and I'm up on 11 here at Shoreline.
So the North Shore Fire Department regionalization update discussion.
So it's great for everybody to get together and at least, see some faces and develop some relationships. I have a few things just to go over, but answer any questions that you may have as well. So we started in June of 22 for a contract for services here with North Shore. All of the personnel came over to Shoreline and became employees. We have a part-time board secretary on the board. And we've been managing all aspects of it. The North Shore Fire Department still exists here with the board and has taxing authorities and owns the apparatus and stations and so forth. We did a lot of proactive work, and getting things ironed out, and took a little bit for things to kind of filter out, but it actually went really better than I expected. It was great, and it's a testimonial to all the people that were working behind the scenes. But it was a lot of proactive work too, to just make sure that everything was working well. And so now we're into our second full year this year. So that's about, do you have any questions about what we did or how we did it?
Just a lot of paperwork, right?
Well, it was a lot of like, okay, North Shore does it this way, Shoreline does it this way. How do we, do we take Shoreline's way or North Shore's way, or we find somewhere in between? And that was a lot of the behind the scenes work of meshing things together. I kind of joke about this, that one of the hardest things to do is to figure out how to bring vacation hours over. Because completely two separate, it was the biggest difference between the fire departments. Shoreline accrues vacation hours to use in the next year, whereas North Shore accrues and uses it as it becomes available, which is the right way to go, by the way. Just my opinion. I've never liked how Shoreline does it, but it was cost prohibitive to change Shoreline over, so we figured out a way of blending, and giving some leeway as people needed to use hours or accrue hours. So that was the biggest challenge. So I mean, it was a lot of paperwork and stuff like that, but it was actually a lot of meetings by subcommittees that were working through, like, what are the engines, how are the engines going to get outfitted, what are they gonna, what kind of hose or nozzles and things like that. And that was actually where it was kind of a win-win, where we could take the two different ways and figure out what was the better way between the two. So that was kind of nice. There was definitely some growing pains this last year in getting up to speed on all of the intricacies with the stations here at Lake Forest Park and Kenmore, and some of our capital needs, which would put a bunch of strain on the budget for this year, but it should go better moving forward after this. I think that's about it. Any other questions? Or
I'm curious about the feedback from the residents about the merger.
These guys might, I've had not very many comments, maybe half a dozen comments that all were excited about it. I haven't had anybody coming out, upset, but these guys would probably hear about it before I would hear about it, I suppose. We have people that get upset about certain aspects of doing business, whether it was a good call or a bad call, things of that nature, but specific to the regionalization, I haven't heard much except for support.
It's good to hear.
I'd like to add too that like what you're seeing between North Shore and Shoreline is happening all over North King County right now.
Yeah.
So you've got City of Woodinville's fire department that has contracted for service with Eastside Fire and Rescue. City of Bothell Fire Department is actively looking for a contract for service for administrative services. Redmond and Bellevue are talking about creating an RFA. Mercer Island has a contract for service with Eastside Fire and Rescue. So it won't be long before these organizations have all kind of merged into larger, more efficient organizations, right? Gone are the days of the North Shore Fire Department, Bothell Fire Department, Kirkland Fire Department, right? Woodinville Fire Department.
Thanks, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And so it's happening in South County as well. South King County.
Okay. And all over Snohomish.
Yeah.
Actually, South Snohomish County did.
South Snohomish County too.
They did it.
Yes, so it is, kind of the King County, well, Washington State was a little late to the game as far as the state goes, but King County was certainly one of the last kind of holdouts, if you will. As far as areas that, hadn't done a lot of work on regionalization and actually in South King County, that's been kind of going on. Well, actually, since when I left my previous department, it was about the same time that they were starting to do things with Kent and became Puget Sound Fire. So it's been ongoing for a while in South King County, but King County's late to this game.
Has the call time, the response time to the residents changed at all?
If anything, it's improved, but unfortunately, we're still having problems with getting good data out of the dispatch Norcom switch CADs. And we're still having some problems with accurate data, so I haven't done any reports in that regard. But I would, anecdotally at least, I would say that it's only improved because we've added a peak hour car out of Lake Forest Park. And with better staffing, efficiencies that, I would think that it's only improved.
The apparatus, same number, actually more apparatus are responding out of the same stations. Right, so there hasn't been a reduction in the number of personnel or the number of apparatus responding.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that, so.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the North Shore Fire Department capital projects update.
The two big ones that that I'd like to brief you on is, starting here, we're looking at adding a carport and potentially a building to house some of our extra apparatus that we use for training and academies and so forth, out over in the northwestern corner of the lot. With what we call a dirty classroom, a classroom that's not like this, plywood floors and chairs, that can be used for fire type training and things like that. Actually, I'm going to be briefing the board on this later tonight. We're in the process of getting or putting together an RFP to get bids and all that. And the state will not allow us to do it our own, even though we probably need about 4 subs, but that's not legal. So we're going to do an RFP and then evaluate what the prices are to determine whether or not we're going to move forward with it or not. The other big project that's that's going on right now, we'll see what happens in the future, is Station 54. There's actually a 3rd station. It's in South Kenmore across the slough. We are in the process. It's in a bad state of repair, and it has been for quite a while. It was being rented out for storage. It was used as a volunteer fire station a long time ago.
Is that the one last year when we were here that there was people that were waiting to?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, good memory. So the renter is out. There's some things that we have to take care of as far as like drain leaks that are coming onto the property. We're trying to figure out where that is. And we're going to take the station down and try and reclaim the property and potentially allow for community garden or other types of community use while we evaluate and or prepare for a building, in the future. It would be a small satellite station if we were to ever build something, with likely a jump crew, engine aid, cross staffed, but that's probably some years out. The cost of fire stations in today's dollars, the estimate on that is about 12 to 13 million. And it'll only go up, moving forward. So it's not something that we take lightly or can just turn around and say, oh yeah, make it happen. So those are the 2 big projects that are going on right now. Physically. Questions on either of those? We're doing a lot of capital replacement projects like HVACs and generators and things like that. But as far as those are the two big ones.
So the next topic is North City Water District Sound Transit update discussion.
You want to go first? Or you want me to go?
Let's start off with, we have a Linwood link, so that comes through Shoreline, and that 145th, they have a station 185th, and then just on the other side of 205. So I think Chief Cowan and I have gotten to experience what we thought was going to be the one and only time of Sound Transit, and then lo and behold, they bring this other one. And got different people on the engineering side, so you jump in.
It was really interesting because we were supposed to be about probably 9 months to a year out right now, when we're really merely some months out now because of the issues that have been going on with across I-90 and the rails down there. They had to take them all up and put different support structures underneath it. So they took all the resources that were being allocated down there and put it into the Linwood link, and then that fast tracked the northern link, the Linwood link. And so they've got trains running on the tracks right now. The last I heard, and maybe you've got a better update than me, was they were thinking June. But
Wow.
that's,
So we haven't heard, it just came
But
to our board meeting today.
my understanding is that it takes many months of certification to get it.
So I'm not there, I
Get it.
do know that the city shoreline will not allow them to get any paying customers to come on theirs until they are substantially complete. So
Well-
they have some pretty good clauses in there, what that means.
Right, so I think the certification process, is pretty rigorous, as well.
12 months.
Oh, I didn't think it was quite that long, but I don't know. But they've been running, I didn't know this until a few weeks ago. They've been running the trains in the middle of the night, at speed. And I didn't know that because the only one I've seen is a truck pushing a car at
Right.
about 2 miles an hour, on the rails. But at night, they're running at that speed apparently, obviously without paying customers. They can't do that until they're completely certified, so.
Well, one of their big hiccups that they haven't done is they haven't tested their fire system.
Yeah.
So that was done with them and it's gonna be pretty, you think about that, that's a big water line, so there's a lot of different ups and downs that they have. So they're gonna have to they have to fill them in different segments and then test the pressure and it has to hold it a certain amount of time before it's.
Is this just for their stations or?
Well, there's water systems at the stations with sprinklers, et cetera, but what Diane's talking about, and that's at both
Right.
locations. But it's basically it's a horizontal standpipe is really what it is. And it's runs all the way up and there's different sections because filling it up is going to take a lot of water.
Mhm.
It's gonna take some time, and there is, I don't know what the parameters are, but there's a standard that they have to meet as far as the how long it takes to fill and what kind of water delivery, at the end. They have not tested it yet, it's a pretty big deal. They thought that they were just gonna be able to, at one point, it was like, oh yeah, in a few days we can do it. Well, and our fire marshal, Ryan Burgess, he's like, have you talked with the city? Have you talked with North City Water? Have you done the permits and all this? This is a bigger deal. And they're like, oh no, but we should be able to do it in a few days. Came back and was like, yeah, we got some work to do. So they have not tested it yet, but what's really good about it is that this replaces, we had hydrants along I-5 before, but they were in a bad state of repair and some of them were behind doors and, in the concrete wall.
Oh,
the
yeah,
doors
yeah.
couldn't open the doors, they were rusted shut.
Oh.
So we've actually increased the number of connection points along the way. And so it's designed in case, there's a fire in one of the trains or whatever. But we're also excited about the possibility of having to use it for I-5. So it'll give us some better operations, on the whole corridor.
Do they have their own water supply and pumps to fill those?
No, we have they have the standpipe connection next to hydrants and it's sectioned because it's too big, too long to have one section. So we have to go to the right hydrant and fill the right side of the section, and we're talking about tens of thousands of gallons. More than likely, I would think. I don't know what the estimate is.
They want to make sure they have.
Issues with that.
Which is really interesting since we don't have the snow in the mountains and now we're gonna fill all the light rail standpipe
Right.
in that.
And I think they have a plan for trying to reclaim the water, because the water, that was one of the questions, is like, you can't put that much chlorinated water onto the ground. So I think that their plan, I don't know, I think their plan is to get the water back into tankers and then be able, I don't know.
Well, that's one of the things they've also talked about dechlorination, so they can put tablets in. What they'll do oftentimes when you're starting a new construction project, they'll dechlorinate, stuff like that, to have it go, when it gets discharged into the sewer. They're looking at that and having it go on in some of the basins, but we'll see.
So,
They haven't got it all worked out.
no,
Well, and the stations themselves aren't far enough along that they have brought, neither station, they have not brought in the artists yet to do the artwork pieces that are major too, so you still have that going, so you still gotta get the stations finished and ready for all the artwork pieces, which those in themselves will take a couple of months. And they just keep at, here's another piece, but When
Give
they
it to
talk
us,
about-
Frank,
Well, when they talk about opening date, they're just like, oh, well, the trains will be running, well. Trains will be operational, but not necessarily all the other
Everything.
pieces in place.
Well, interesting enough, I heard on the radio too that they're in the process now of trying to open up the Bellevue to Redmond piece. And so I thought that was interesting because that seemed to be fast tracked as well. Although that whole link was further along than ours originally until the delays came into play. The bridge still is not, they're still a long ways away on the bridge. But it might be running from Bellevue to Redmond back and forth, here pretty quick.
Also, the other part is the bus system from the plan for the express buses from Bothell to one station. Is way behind too.
So that's really what we should be talking about.
That's the
because
bus.
that impacts you.
That really impacts everything because they're gonna add bus lanes to Lake Forest Park. Water.
They're in bus lanes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not just
Wait.
bus lines, it's
And
lanes.
bus lane and they're. Sound power, the sound transit is about a year behind already on
Yeah,
that.
those are the ones, the connector buses that come
Connector
clear
bus.
out of Woodinville.
Yeah, they're connected out of Bothell. Wood.
End up at the 145th Street.
Every 15 minutes, they're supposed to run it, and they got money for it from the government. But
Hmm.
It's way
A
behind.
lot of questions, it does remind me though, I need to follow up and get a better understanding of when their
And then there's the closure
Yeah.
of
deadline is.
the bridge over 145th, which will also.
That-
construct-
That's about to go. I heard from Ryan that they're preparing for that right
So in
now.
case you didn't know, the city of Shoreline
The
got a
pedestrian.
bunch of federal money, and they are going to have roundabouts on either side of I-5 at 145th as opposed to traffic lights. Which means lowering the whole west side approach because it sits too high, you'll be
Right.
able to put a roundabout in. So there's all of that too.
It does.
The end of a
traffic
pedestrian.
To do that.
And a
Yeah,
pedestrian
And
bridge.
pedestrian bridge
separate
just
from that.
north of that overpass. And there's a ton of growth going on right now in the 145th and First, right in that area. And this will be that pedestrian to absorb the traffic, the pedestrian traffic from those developments. On top of, you've got the parking garage too.
Okay, I'm gonna get us back on track here.
Well, let me finish that one off.
Yeah.
So coming back to what's going on in Lake Forest Park
Mhm.
and this side is what we learned on the links we thought we would see on this bus rapid transit. They've got totally different people from Sound Transit on it. So Shoreline's
Oh,
section is
interesting.
gonna get done faster than Lake Forest Parks. One of the things that we had asked for is we wanted to have the water mains that are gonna be along the edge of the right of way. The Sound Transit is not willing to that's what we offered pay for initially, and they said, no, it's considered betterments, and they're unwilling to allow any betterments. And so on this project, and then the other thing is well, what if something gets damaged because you're out there and you're less than 10 feet from a neighboring utility? This is a 1953 water main. Can't, what's gonna happen? And they just said, it's not gonna be a problem. Well, we're putting you on notice. And when all these people all of a sudden don't have water, because somebody's backed into something or somebody's dug into it. You've got 1,200 feet of water main right on the edge of a big major road that needs to be replaced. It's crazy, but so that's what
Wow.
one of the holdups is, trying to get all that worked out. And then on 165th, we have a pressure reducing station right there, and they want to lower the road in that area also, so that's gonna impact us. So we can't just come in and we've got it's 8 feet deep, I think is our station, and you can't just cut it off, you've got to figure out how to work around all of that. So it's a little discombobulated over here with some of the things, and then with all the residents not wanting to have this stuff.
Yeah.
One of the challenges is the silos within Sound Transit that Diane's talking about, that they have different, that's a different department, that they do that and they do this, and it's, yeah, a bit, so. And we are about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through with overall training. That's going on for being able to respond to emergencies, on the train. Or if the train derails or whatever.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to North City Water District Capital Projects Update Discussion.
So we have two large, as our commissioners heard earlier today, we have two large, or one large and one smaller project. Going on down in the Sheridan Beach area, getting things through the city. That's not. These we started 3 years ago, the other one started 2 years ago. So, you can see we're a little frustrated. The first one is down off of, Beach Drive. And it goes under McElroy Creek, and we wanted to go ahead and, connect up our water main. We found that it had capped off a number of years ago. And, so we wanted to, a water main along the edge of the bridge that's there, and the city came back and said no. And we said, well, then we'd like to put a separate grid or a separate one that would be parallel, but it'd be above the ground. They said no, because if we expand or do anything, we don't want to hit your water main. So they said, we want you to bore under the creek. So we have been waiting 22 weeks. So not quite a year, but not quite, well, almost half a year, waiting to get a response that we have submitted on this stuff. And we're trying to do a boring underneath that drive. The city is now telling us they want to pave over the bridge. We don't get to put water main on it or attach it, but we have to pave it. So anyway, we're running in a little bit of a discussion with the city on that project. So you can see that's gonna be very, very expensive and multi-million dollars. The boring machine's gonna come down, and then back up on the other side, and they'll pull a device through, we'll have HDPE pipe. So when that comes along, it'll be pretty cool to see, something along those lines. Yeah,
That's nice.
just putting in the age.
But we found out during soil testing that the soil was not as stable as we thought, so now the boring project starts further out and goes way deeper to get the soil that will support the pipe
It won't move. Yeah.
and not move and break under the creek. Which that's of course what we're doing.
So, and it came from a problem we found in our records in 1972, when King County had something going on there. We had found the insurance claims and all that stuff now from that time, so that's where it probably got capped off at that point. But anyway, so that's a big project, and then the other one is a number of years ago, when I first started, we were probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we started getting all these phone calls and said, we don't have water, it's from the Sheridan Beach area. We're going, what, I mean, the phone was going off the hook, we probably had 20, 30 calls, it's amazing. Our guys are down there, they're trying to figure out what had happened. And the operations manager of the pool, the Sheridan Beach pool, turned the wrong valve off. And what we didn't know, and we didn't realize, is there was no secondary loop to get in that area, to get water service. So we need to go out and get that fixed. And so we looked at, again, with Sound Transit, we talked about a boring project. We talked about, going underneath 520. We had an RFQ out, and a consulting firm looked at 4 or 5 different options, I think it was. And then they discovered the fact that we could connect a couple of water lines we hadn't thought of, and saves us, all the going across the bridge. So there's a tract of land that's within Sheridan Beach that we have to get an easement over. That's about it. So again, that one has been at the city for 2.5, or a little over 2 months. That's maybe 200 feet. So it'll be a small, like a $300,000 job. But again, getting stuff in the city is a little challenging at the time. And that was the main thing that we wanted to let you know on, kind of what we're on. But the other thing that, and it's not out here that wanted to share is, you may have heard EPA is on a national level and is asking people to identify lead service lines, and what they have. And so all the water utilities across the nation have to go out and inspect the water lines if they don't have records. And because special purpose districts and maybe cities don't keep track of the water line that's on your house that goes from your house to the meter, we just know the other side from the meter out in the street. So we've done a lot of analysis, gone back and looked at the age of the house. We've got 5,500 houses that were built prior to when the King County code changed that didn't allow that. So we get to take a random number to go out and sample it, but our crews will be busy out here doing all that stuff. At Sheridan Beach, I think we found homes that were down there in the 2010s, 2020s, you know, that they've got some old homes down there. Yeah, there's other places in the
So is
city.
that lead solder or lead pipe?
Well, just
Both.
that,
But we're about, a connection about that big,
Okay.
just lead, take a
Bend it if you have to,
chunk of lead, liquefy it.
yeah.
Is there gonna be federal dollars to?
if we find any, but we've never allowed in our records, going clear back to the very first one, when the water pipes were put in 1936. We've never allowed lead in our stuff, but we don't know on the customer side also.
But you just made a little report today, or Max did, pertaining to. Now they're gonna talk about galvanized pipe,
Yes.
Not surprised there.
and there's a hell of a lot of galvanized pipe out there.
So, and then
Yeah.
we have to post our results. North Shore is bigger than we are. They have to post also, but we will have a big giant Excel spreadsheet on our website that anyone can go look up their address and see what information that we find. But this is all mandated back in Washington. And it has to do with the Flint, Michigan, and then everything going on there. But I don't know how much they're gonna find over here in Washington.
Interesting. Okay, so is there anything else before we adjourn the joint meeting?
I appreciate the camaraderie and the communication that we have with fire chief. It's very good. One of the other ones we worked on is a Senate bill down in Olympia right now. We worked on getting the capital projects appropriation so that it's fire districts, water districts, PUDs and cities all had the same bid limits. And we've got a bill passed, and it passed last year with Representative Reeve, and then two of the representatives over here in District 1 supported it. And then we've got the labor unions that have come in and they are going against it. And so they're trying to get it stopped right now this year. And I think the relationship working with Chief Allen has been helpful because we can communicate and try and find a common ground.
Mhm. Yeah.
Water and fire, we need to work together.
Kind of go together.
Agreed. I value our relationship as well.
Okay, so,
Thanks for taking the time to come out.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
I'll
Is it
see you
this week?
Thursday.
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 Like I said, I'll see you in a couple days.
On the other side,
Yeah.
Could we just take it 40 from your take over?
I'll come up with some better ways to give you a hard time by then.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Amy, if you can do the roll call for us for our regular North Shore Board meeting?
Commissioner Adams,
Still here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Present.
Commissioner Byers,
Present.
Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Wolof,
Here?
Chief Collins,
Here.
Legal Counsel Aaron Haynes,
Here.
and I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
Okay, and then now it's time for public comments. Did you happen to get anything in? Okay. If I can get an approval of the agenda,
Motion, we have the meeting agenda as presented.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Now we're moving on to the North Shore Board discussion and possible action items. Update from the subcommittee on Station 54.
I do have a little bit of information. So we are in the process of trying to address a few different things. The drain issue, an asbestos assessment, and then proceeding with demolition. The asbestos testing came back as less than 0.25% spot checks, which is very little. In fact, predominantly, I think there's a couple of what Chief Oakstein told me was a couple of boards on the front. Anything under 1% can be used for training. So our training consortium will use it for something. I have no idea what,
Okay,
but it won't be that. We won't be doing that until we're close to demolition. So that whatever we do, we don't have to secure it again or board it back
Gotcha.
up again. And for whatever time before it gets demolished. So And Chief Hochstein is working through a couple of contractors to try and get a scoping, a fiber optic scoping of our drains or whatever. Well, let me back. We're going to work with a contractor and they're going to tell us what they need to do to figure out where it is. But we believe that we need to figure out where the leak is, and then potentially on whose property it is, whether it's ours or a neighbor's property. And as I mentioned, he's also working on lining up a demolition contractor. So that's the update I got from him earlier today.
Yeah, that is everything that's going on, and then once we have the demolition complete, we will be looking at uses of the property
Right.
in from before we build anything there. And so we'll be looking for community partners and look at the cost of insurance and all that stuff to community garden temporary. And we want to keep the bus stop area for the kids.
Right.
You know, we're aware of what the community needs in that area.
We did get confirmation too, which we thought we would, that this was the case, but we did get confirmation too that if we destroy the building, and cap the utilities off, we still have the rights to, a future development, which was a small concern, but we did get confirmation of that.
We didn't want to lose our sewer tap and our water.
Right.
Right.
Is there a time limit on that, or does that expire?
I don't believe so. So.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to the update from the subcommittee on outbuildings at Station 51.
You guys met on that. I was gone. What I know is that we are working with the TCA. They're gonna develop an RFP for 2 separate projects. The carport along the south end of the side of the lot, and then the other building in the northwest corner. And then we'll put it out for RFP, and then depending on what comes back, and pricing and so forth, we'll have a better, more educated conversation about what that looks like and then the future.
Okay,
That's all I know was right.
And that's
Okay.
where we're sitting right now.
okay, we're gonna go on to the update on tax relief for North Shore citizens related to the fire benefit charge.
Yeah, I don't have an update on that right now, so maybe we can just continue that on the agenda.
Okay,
I do have one thing to add.
Yeah.
We are getting what has popped up on both Shoreline and North Shore's fire benefit charge. So a lot of people are appealing for sprinkler discounts. And what we're finding is that especially with new construction, there's no current process for as new construction gets built and sprinklers are being included, of getting that information to the county into their database. So it's too late to do anything for this current process, but we will have something in place by this year for the next process to make sure that we have a way of getting the information from the cities and then compiling a database and making sure Neil Blindheim, he's our consultant, gets that into the county database, for the next year's fire benefit charge.
Isn't the fire marshal's office doing those building assessments and reviews?
Yes, but the city has a database. We should be able to get the city's data. It should be easier just to get it. Right, as they come through the permitting process and all that, they should be compiling a database. And right now, there's no transfer of that information to the county's database. So what we're finding is, I was talking with Kimberly, who does Shoreline. I think we're at 20 appeals, and almost all of them are sprinklers.
I would have expected more, actually.
Well, actually, I expected less. We've been on a downward slope, for quite a long time. Last year it was like 6 or 8, and we've been kind of, we're newer. Shoreline's newer to the fire benefit charge, so it's been less and less appeals each year. In fact, I only push it for like $500 worth of appeals. This year it spiked back up. I believe because of new construction and some of the efforts of we're trying to get the word out too for, asking for, appeals on this or, for relief. So yeah, it had been doing this amount, kind of spiked back up, and we're not done yet. So we still got a little ways to go before I think early March is when it closes. So.
Next item is update on 2023 expense reconciliation.
Right, so, I would have emailed it to you, but I was working on it till this afternoon, and I didn't want to bug Amy, so I'll send this to you guys digitally, that's what's around, sorry, Eric. I'll send it to you, I'll send it as soon as I get back to a computer. So, as you know, as part of the contract, we have to reconcile the last year's, actual expenses, happened, and so, takes a lot of work, but I went through, and put all the actuals into our current, or the 2023 budget, and compared that to our initial charges that we budgeted for in at the beginning of 2023, or end of 2022 for the 2023 budget. And we were off. Well, we were under budget, and this is almost predominantly, it would have been exact. Except, and you may recall this conversation, at the end of 2022, we were looking at our actual experience of the costs of staffing the 50 units, Lake Forest Park and Kenmore, and it was at 38.83%. And we decided to use that percentage because we felt that was going to be closer to the actuals, for 2023. The model is a predictive 37.5%, and we should have used the 37.5%. Because if we had, we would have been almost exactly right on for overall the reconciliation. But because the actuals were 37.332, so we were off by 0.168%. It was almost we would have been totally fine. So the bottom line is that Charlotte needs to cut a check to North Shore for nearly $300,000.
Whoa.
So that 294,000.
I gotta agree with you.
So the good news is that we were under budget for 2023, which transferred to these savings. I am not excited about the size of this, but moving forward, and I already put a note, and you'll see it right there, that the target should be 37.5%, not 38.83. I will tell you though, that 2024 is using the 38.83%. So it's likely that we will end up with another, fairly good sized check, for reconciling 2024 as well.
So when does the check get cut? I mean, just.
Wow.
Did you write it?
That took you 9.4 seconds.
The only reason I say it is that next quarter.
I'm gonna give it to payroll or give it to AP tomorrow.
Can we just put this money directly into the apparatus account for the rescue?
Well, you can put it wherever you want, but I will try and get this process. I don't know when it'll go, but so
You start
this
charging
will be
interest.
actually.
It would fit good in my pocket,
Do you have a bank account that? Don't, Aaron, don't get trouble. This might, I don't know what the process is, but this is likely because we're managing these funds. It might just be a transfer and how to document the transfers and all that. So it might be faster than normal, but I wanted to brief you guys before, and I just finished it this afternoon. So I'll give this tomorrow to get paid. And so it'll probably drop into the account, and we'll put it into the general account, and then we haven't done the transfers yet for 2024. So if we want to increase any transfers, or if you want to do something else, then we should decide to do that at that time.
As reserve funding for buildings, which we know we're short on.
So again, the good news is we were under budget. The good news is that our model is actually really good. We just didn't follow it. So there you go. Any questions?
Okay, then I'm gonna move on to the update on Rescue 151 purchase.
Yeah, so we thought that we were done, but the committee wasn't quite done getting all the specs figured out. They're meeting next week. The good news is, due to some changes in scoping and all that, it's come down from the 2.1 to about 1.6. I'm gonna say 1.7 because I'm hoping it might come in a little bit cheaper, but 1.7 including tax. So it's going pretty well. Should have the final document next week and be able to make the purchase. they're doing a bunch of great work. I haven't been in any of the committee meetings, but Chief Hochstein has. It's gonna be a heavy rescue with a walk-in. But because, like I said, because of this, it's come down quite a bit in price.
Okay. So we have no board resolutions, so we're gonna move on to.
I have
the-
a question on the rescue.
Okay,
So, I had just previously had asked the chief if, based on some of the questions that had been raised by the board previously, just about kind of the basis for the rescue and everything, if we could have some sort of briefing just on the, you know, the new rescue concept, sort of the genesis of that concept and how it led to this particular piece of apparatus, and so, you know, and movements within the organization to staff it a little bit differently. It sounds like there's some different training requirements. I would just still be interested in having that information.
I spoke with Matt, with Chief Hochstein earlier today. We don't have any drawings that are finalized yet for the new apparatus. I can talk in generalities about it. It's going to be a heavy rescue with a walk-in capabilities. It'll have increased weight and space, you know, for all the equipment that we need to have currently. We are planning on, we've already moved some of the TRT personnel to here to better be able to take the current one out on calls. And our plan is to keep expanding, you know, those capabilities. This will serve obviously for, you know, the next, you know, 15, 20 years. And it's designed for all the equipment that we have. Was there something specific that you wanted to?
Yeah, I wasn't so much delving into the details of the apparatus itself per se, aside from just a general need or general question about why we need that particular apparatus. This is something just kind of following up on something that had been raised previously, but it's more, I think, just kind of what's going on big picture within the department around the new rescue concept and movement of personnel, you know, increasing, I don't know if there's any like legal or regulatory things that are driving us to have this particular setup, but it would just be useful, I think, for the board to have a perspective on that apparatus and how it fits within the department, if there's any operational impacts and why we chose that particular type of apparatus.
Could we set that up to have a presentation like that next meeting?
I think giving the chief some time to
Yeah.
prepare and maybe giving some specific things to talk on.
Chief,
Okay, well, we were planning on making the purchase next week, but you know, I can as soon as we get the drawings, I can send them out.
We're not asking for a delay in the purchase, but
No.
for you to address
Okay,
the changes in the organization that are happening around the purchase of this apparatus, the movement of the TRT team here, how that will impact our responses, the type of responses.
okay. Yeah, I can certainly put together, you know, some talking points and maybe have Chief Hochstein attend maybe the next meeting or whatever, to give you some more particulars about the apparatus itself. In general, I feel like we have been underutilizing the apparatus. It's a great regional asset for us, not only for our own needs and so forth, but to help, you know, neighboring departments out. But I can certainly put together, you know, a quick presentation on it.
And we have room in our station for that.
Yeah, it's actually, that's a great question. I think it's probably a few feet longer than the one we have there now. I'm assuming that because it's a heavy, it'll have a double axle as opposed to a single. You know, but that's a great question. They haven't spec'd it out entirely yet, but I'm sure it's pretty close. And the reason why they're taking more time on this is to try and avoid any change orders and so forth that could occur. if we rush it, if we rushed into it with not having all the specs completely done, so. But I'll add that to the list.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Now on to reports, the fire chief's report.
One thing I wanted to expand on, but was there any questions first?
I had a question, and I don't know if it's for you or for Chief Holstein, about the HVAC at 57. Because I heard it actually failed and there was no heat getting into the rooms. And so I just wanted to know where we were at with that process.
I don't know if Matt's able to jump on, or I can get back to you with it. I don't know anything
Okay.
about that, so.
Chief Holstein?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so over the couple weeks ago when we had the cold snap, we had we had some HVAC issues at 57 and 51 where we lost heat in the bedrooms at 51 and the common areas at 57. Obviously the HVAC companies were busy during that time with a lot of similar issues at a lot of similar places, but we were able to get some emergency repairs done. They ended up having to come back over the course of several days to try and get it repaired, but it ultimately it was back. We were able to get it back in service with some repairs. So that included a new circuit board on one of the HVAC units at 57. Temporarily in the short term, we were able to get some portable space heaters into the stations to try and make it more comfortable because it was down to about 50 degrees in the station. That took a little time. Commissioner Adman even helped out with we had a frozen pipe during that time, and through his ingenuity was able to get that resolved without any damage. So shout out to Commissioner Adman. But I told him we have some room on the facilities team if he's looking for a second job. So but that experience just reemphasized kind of what we the benefits of why we put into the capital fund some work to get done on these HVAC units, because this is obviously kind of a common theme with these units at these stations. So it is in the front burner to work with PSR Mechanical and initiate the first step at 57, at least with what the bigger picture looks like. So there was $100,000 budgeted in the 24 capital fund for this first step in 24, and we're going to see what we can do with that to get this thing working better. So I don't think that's going to cover everything that we want to do there, but that's our 24 goal, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, and just to follow up, the chief was right. The Rescue 151 is we're speccing is a dual axle.
Okay, Chief Kellen, anything you wanted to add?
Two things I wanted to add a little bit more detail or see if there's any questions on. NEMCO, we did reach a point where a decision was made that it was not gonna work out with joining with Shoreline. So now we're working through what that looks like, and Kevin's role and where he's gonna be, and potentially I won't get into all the details, but there's some needs in Shoreline for a little bit of extra work, but also that Shoreline can provide some of the emergency management stuff that Kevin's doing here. So we're going to look at trying to figure out how that balances out, and both financially and logistically. And NEMCO is actually actively trying to figure out, potentially if Woodinville or others are interested in joining as well. So they had a lot of great. There's no hard feelings, at least that I know of. between Shoreline and NEMCO or anything like that. They worked through a bunch of different means and conversations and so forth. And what it really ended up was, I think it became cost prohibitive. It was gonna be more costly for Lake Forest Park and Kenmore, and I think that's where the decisions ended up being, we don't want to do that. And I think maybe some concerns about being buried in the group and not being able to address some of the stuff that might be more important to Lake Forest Park and Kenmore. I don't know, they had those meetings without me, and I'm just giving you what I got from the meeting that we had. It was, and everything was good. There's no hard feelings that I know of, well, especially amongst our partners or even with Shoreline, so.
Because North Shore Utilities also.
North Shore Utilities is out, so we're really talking about Lake Forest Park, Kenmore, and us, so. You know, the police departments are involved too, and Mike Harden is actually the chair of the NEMCO board. He's the police chief.
Who's the emergency manager for Shoreline Fire Department? Is it run through the
Ryan
fire department, or is it run through
See,
the city?
well, we can talk about this for as much as you guys want. I'll give you some more details because that's, you know, that's a great question. And that's where there's differences between how we're currently operating, because in my opinion, and I think it's a pretty well founded and common opinion throughout most fire departments, is we're not in the business of emergency management. That's a city function, that's a city responsibility, and it's legal that way as well. So in Shoreline, Chief Hochstein and others, myself and the ops, you know, whether it's Mark and Andres, you know, we take different aspects of the fire department side of emergency management, but it's really all on the city. They do a lot of what Kevin's doing for the city, and we don't pay to the city. It's their responsibility. So Shoreline doesn't pay anything towards emergency management aside from, you know, the work that we do locally to the and fire department oriented, such as, like, you know, setting up fire department operations, you know, things like that. So you know, switch down to here. I think this goes back to the way that North Shore was being run for decades. There wasn't a DC of support services. There wasn't, you know, that capability of doing that work, which made a whole lot of sense to be in NEMCO and having NEMCO be responsible for that emergency management side of the work. So when Kevin came on and replaced Carl, name's Carl, he took on a lot of the work that's here in Lake Forest Park, well, for North Shore Fire, that we do in Shoreline already. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So Kevin took on more, you know, and so, or that we feel that the cities should be doing. So what we're looking at doing is that balance I was talking about. There are some things that Kevin could do that would be an improvement for the Shoreline side of things. So we'd like to look at maybe Shoreline being a partner in NEMCO and elevating a little bit of what Kevin does, the gaps that we have at Shoreline, but at the same time have Shoreline staff, Chief Hochstein and so forth, you know, take on some of the things that Kevin has been doing down here. So kind of balancing things a little bit. And we don't know what that looks like yet, because Chief Hochstein and Kevin have gotten together and identified some of those gaps, but we haven't put a workload to it or a dollar value to it. And then we got to renegotiate with Lake Forest Park and Kenmore. It may not change the total amount that's being contributed to NEMCO from currently North Shore, but that would be distributed between both Shoreline and North Shore in the future. It wouldn't be, right now it's just a North Shore cost, because Kevin isn't really doing anything for Shoreline. But in the future, I see this as more, you know, being consistent. I need consistency throughout how we operate. You know, I'll give you, it's a low level example, but it kind of drives home what I'm talking about. You know, Chief Hochstein and Chief Foster were doing snow, and we're doing snow removal, and they're coordinating we have a contract for snow removal, and we're like, yeah, you need to go down to 51 and 57 and do that. Meanwhile, Kevin's down here and he's working with the city to get somebody to come over and plow and clear it too. Again, but it's an example of there's this crossover of work. And so we need to define that a little bit better so that we can put a dollar value, because it's not fair for North Shore just to be contributing and then Shoreline getting a benefit from it, but at the same time, I don't want to be paying for things that we're already doing
Right.
too, so
Right.
we're still trying to figure that out. So I felt like that required a little bit more explanation than what I put in my activity.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
I have a question on the Bothell City Council.
That was actually the second thing I was gonna mention, was that tonight, they are, theoretically, it's on the agenda, I checked right before I came down here. It's on their agenda to adopt a resolution, to author, they have to do it by resolution, authorize the RFP. I don't know what the RFP language is, it's not out. I know that it was given to legal a few weeks ago and that they were looking at beating it up, but I haven't seen it or anything. Because I just asked for what the status was. Theoretically, they'll be authorizing the resolution tonight to put out the RFP, so either tonight or tomorrow, assuming that they approve it, RFP language will go out. I don't know how long it'll take, or that they'll allow for the proposals to come back in. I would think at least a month. I don't know, I guess it depends a lot on the language. The language itself will be interesting to interpret too. Hey, how's it going?
Excuse me, I 2 books.
Oh, totally fine. And what and how the RP language is will define what our proposal looks like. So, and we'll go from there. So,
Do we know, what I've heard is that it's gonna be just for admin services.
right, but what we don't know is what does that mean? Is that just overseeing the operations of the department? Is it managing all the nuances of admin and all that? Or is there wiggle room in there? So how strict or how flexible that language is going to be probably pretty important for us to be able to make sure that we're conforming to whatever that's being asked. And to put a good proposal forward. I don't believe that this is the final step in what, admin services doesn't do anything really for them. It buys them a little bit of time. I think what they're really looking for is an RFA, or maybe a merger, but, or an RFA. So, which is actually one of the things that we need to talk about in projected agendas, but what we need to do legislatively this year. So,
In this process, is there any risk of them losing the contract they have with their fire district?
oh, it's Snow 10?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know what that language, I haven't ever looked at what that language looks like. My understanding is that Snow 10 is in a contract with Bothell. So there might be an out or something that would, I mean, certainly Snow 10 still exists. So they could, I would think that there's some kind of mechanism for them to separate if they wanted to. That would be problematic though, from what I've gathered is that Snow 10 doesn't have any fire stations up there. It's all city of Bothell land. I don't know. I frankly, it hasn't been, I'm interested, but I haven't, it's not my business. So I focus in on other things. It may be my business tomorrow, to get a better understanding. But right now, I know that I know about where those stations are, but my understanding is that it's an interesting relationship because Snow 10 exists, but my understanding is that they don't own a lot of things. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I think Snow 10 actually does own, I think, one of those fire stations, maybe 44s. And I think they do. And I think they do own some apparatus as well.
Yeah. I'm talking about stations. You're absolutely right. They do own apparatus because I know they buy an apparatus now. Yeah, they do buy apparatus now and then. It sounds like maybe one of the stations is Snow 10's as well.
I think separation from Bothell would be difficult for Snow 10 though, because geographically it occupies two separate, essentially islands, one to the west and one to the north portions of Bothell.
And frankly, it would also get interesting too, as far as the delivery of ALS, as well, because right now, the city of Bothell, all of city of Bothell is protected by the King County EMS system. If they were to separate out, then that could get interesting as well.
Snow 10 uses the King County system too.
Yes, so, well, Bothell, all of Bothell is protected by the Medic One, program. And then there's money that comes from Snohomish County to augment or to help cover the cost of delivering services up there.
That's curious, because so those Snohomish County citizens are taxed differently than their neighbors or.
Correct. Well, the city of Bothell collects it, so within the city of Bothell, they might be the same. I don't know. Again,
Yeah, I'm just curious, sorry.
sorry, was there other things?
Okay, are there any commissioner reports we missed? I did want to point out, I don't know if anyone else has gotten back to Amy regarding the email she sent out for training. So if you're interested in going to any of those, please let Amy know so we can get those scheduled.
Is there anyone else? Like, I was kind of curious, should we target one to go to as a group or?
If we do Chelan.
You gotta be real careful then, because. Commissioners.
Well, I think there's we're allowed to go to trainings together.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure Aaron would back me up on this. Just make sure that you're very careful about talking about business and especially making any decisions. That would be where you would definitely cross lines.
Yeah.
I'd be very careful.
Okay, are we ready to move forward on that then? Okay, I'm gonna.
That be an agenda item?
Yeah, can you put that down for next time?
Training, commission training.
And then legal counsel report.
I have no formal report. If you have any questions on anything, happy to answer those. But I met with Matt before he left for the week, and he didn't have anything for you.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations on the partnership with Brian Stern.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're very excited to have this moving forward, and I know it's I think Brian's thrilled, and Richard was really happy to bring it together. So looking forward to being able to serve the districts more efficiently and kind of provide services just more effectively to everyone moving forward.
Okay, upcoming board agendas. Amy, do you mind going over that real quick?
Yeah, so we're going to keep the items, the update from the subcommittee on Station 54 and the subcommittee update from the subcommittee on the outbuildings at Station 51. There'll be an update on the tax relief for North Shore citizens related to the fire benefit charge. There'll be a presentation about the new rescue apparatus and the TRT staffing strategy. And then an agenda item around planning for some kind of commissioner training in 2024.
Okay. All right, anybody have anything to add? Go ahead, Chief.
I do, in that, as you may recall, when we were working through the 2024 budget process, we are up against our limits. And this has nothing to do with the contractor shoreline, and I know that this was something that was coming regardless. Because we were up against the cap on the property tax side. So we're limited to the 1% increases each year on that side. So the fire benefit charge has been slowly increasing at a higher rate and is now at 58% of our overall budget, and it's capped at 60%. So I mentioned in our budget process that we need to look at doing something this year. So my question to you is, do you want to have a special meeting to discuss this, or the regular meeting, a subcommittee? I just don't want to lose track of this, because we're not going to do anything in the special election this year, because that's right around the corner. So we need to be looking at the general this fall, and that will sneak up on us too. We have to be done by August 6th with whatever we're doing. There are a few options to us, but I'll let the conversation go. So I just wanted to ask the board how you wanted to proceed.
There's really not an option other than a levy lid lift, right? I mean, it's been 13 years since our last one.
There's actually two. Well, there's a few things that that are options and or what we need to be looking at. We could look at a merger or RFA between the two departments. That would solve some of the issues. Okay. So, if we were to get Shoreline and North Shore together, that solves the problems. We have the fire benefit charge, oh, I'm sorry, lid lift, let's talk about that first. If we don't do that, then we need to look at potentially a lid lift. Potentially. I wouldn't want to go into 2025 without a lid lift because we are so tight, but we could pull from reserves or something like that to bridge a gap potentially. But the other piece of that too is what Bothel's doing. And if they're looking at an RFA or merger or something like that, then it behoove us to be in front of that, more than likely. So, but again, I that's not me. You guys need to make that decision. But then the last thing is that the fire benefit charge needs to be reauthorized as well. If we're not doing a merger or RFA or whatever, and that would have to be next year, not this year, but next year. So we have a lid lift or merger or RFA or whatever this year, but regardless, unless we do that, the merger, then we also need to look at a fire benefit charge next year.
Okay.
Because it's at a 6-year limit.
Okay.
It was authorized in 19, so 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So next year, we need to look at a fire benefit charge too, potentially.
Well, I think we should have a subcommittee that starts the process.
Yeah, so for me, it was either a special meeting or a subcommittee or, we could do it at one of our regular meetings, but it's gonna take quite a bit of time for us to walk through these things, so. It's entirely up to the board, but I want to bring it up to you now so that we have time to figure out.
I would lean towards a special meeting. Commissioner Pratt.
Yeah, I agree. That way everyone's there and is getting the same message, has an opportunity to give input.
And I think, yeah, just like giving us the different options of what to look forward, and what those options entail. So if we do RFA, what does that look like and how do we go about that? Going out for the lid lift and stuff, that's fairly simple. We've done that before, but this is
Right. Yeah, and there's different complexities to each of those. I can prepare some really brief talking points for a special meeting if that's what you guys want.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Do you have a rough cost on what the lift would cost us to get on the ballot?
Depends on which election we would go with. If we went this fall in the general, the good news there's a good news, bad news there. I always like to be on specials, separated out from any of the political stuff that's going on. The general would be cheaper for us to run this fall because there's going to be a lot of other ballot measures and things going on. So that would, our cost sharing of that is less. But then there's the, I don't think we really have much choice, but, because we need to be doing something this year, but we would, potentially there's political other stuff that's going on that might have collateral damage to us, which is why I like specials. But the special election that's coming this spring, we would have to be deciding like right now, it's too close. So, that's, that's the pro and con of that. And we have budgeted some, I believe we budgeted some money in the North Shore because I knew that we were going to have to do something this year. And roughly, I think I want to say, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say I put like 45,000 in for the election cost and then another like 10 or 15 for education pamphlets, or something like, if we want to put stuff in the pamphlet. I can't remember, but I can have those numbers for the special, whenever the special meeting is.
And how long would you like for that? Should we do it in 2 weeks?
I would say, the sooner the better, because depending on what we're doing, it may take more planning.
Okay, so next week?
Next Tuesday is the 13th. I am available.
Okay.
And then the following week is midwinter break.
I will be gone for that. Actually, next
Okay.
week would be better because the following week I'm gone.
All right, so let's schedule that for next Tuesday.
It's 5 o'clock work well for you guys or a different time? Or?
I'm in a class till about 4:30. I'll be.
We could start a little bit later.
Right? Later.
Is it possible to bump it out? Because I would like to attend this discussion. I'm going to be out of town next week.
We can,
Well, the concern then is that then we're at least 3 weeks out.
27th, yeah.
yeah, we would be 3 weeks from now. It's the 27th.
Oh, so we're talking about the 20th because you guys kept saying next week, but you meant 2 weeks.
No,
No, next week is the 13th.
20th, that
Uh,
week is winter break. No, a lot of people will be gone.
Yeah, I will not
I'm-
likely to not be.
I'll be in Mexico.
Okay.
on the
So
20th,
it's
the week of
either
the 20th.
Tuesday the 13th or the,
You're tied up to
27th.
13th there?
Yeah, the 13th, I'm out of town.
Does the 27th work for everybody?
Is there another time during next week? Or are you gone all week?
I'm gone all week. Yeah. The 27th would work for me if that works for others.
We can do it. I mean, we can wait till the 27th. I just, August is gonna roll around really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, depending on what we're doing. So if we're doing
I think-
something, so.
I think between, I mean, you guys can, if you want to meet sooner, I have a feeling 1 week difference in our
That's true.
determination isn't going to make a huge difference.
No, we can wait till the 27th.
okay,
I'm fine with that. I think it's important that we're all here. So,
okay.
So, Tuesday, February 27th at 5 p.m.
5, yeah.
the 27th. Okay.
Okay, if there's no further comments, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn. All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.